Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathleen. For the new members and new viewers, kindly subscribe. In this channel, we normally discuss things to do with gender, security, violence, terrorism, and any other pressing issues that are facing the global south, that is African nations. So, first of all, I want to apologize because I thought that we could have today's presentation quite earlier, but I was held up somewhere. So, I'm very sorry to my viewers who have been waiting for it. So, today's presentation is more of a build up from what we had the other day. It's all about how gender is presented in media reports about terrorism, crime, and violence. And I'm not looking at gender-based violence. I'm looking about violence related to war, to terrorism, and crime. So somebody asked me about how do I feel the media presents the male gender and the female gender when it comes to reporting about crimes or terror attacks or terror suspects or criminal suspects or even criminals themselves. So the question is so timely because it comes at a time when I've just written something about the same. And I do not want to give a very long elaboration about this, but I want to say that media reporting on terrorism, violence, and criminality is actually gendered. And I'm saying that it's gendered with a clear mind and awareness that the media does not operate in a vacuum. The media operates in a society, and in this society, we have gendered notions about war and violence. And many times you realize that we have the notion that it's only like men who actually can actively engage in insurgency, war fighting, like fighting war. They are seen to be in the public domain. And this is a domain that for a long time has been male dominated until we began the gender, the women empowerment and affirmative action plans and initiatives that have started to bring the woman to the limelight. So we also realize that a woman is seen to be like somebody who is intrinsically kind of vulnerable, intrinsically weak, and somebody that needs protection. Like they are so motherly, like they cannot harm somebody. And you realize that the propagation of these narratives for a long time has been ongoing in our socializations in the society until like they have been taken to be so true. But in reality, when you look at what's happening around the world and what has been happening from the past, you realize that we have had very strong women who have been involved in war, in violence, in criminality, in terrorism. Like we have had women partaking in these aspects that we think they are only meant for men. Now, I think that is the notion that the media which operates within that society has also carried to its reporting. And now in a society where now the people rely on media to give them information, the information they give can also influence decision making and even policy formulation and execution, because the information they give is interpreted. And if it is interpreted with that gendered perspective, then it is likely to be implemented with that same gendered perspective. So for me, I could say that the media normally presents mostly men as the prime suspects or as the prime actors in violence and terrorism compared to the women. Like how the men are represented is not the same way women are represented. And I'm saying this because if it's a man, let me say suspect, or if it's a man, a member of a criminal group, let me say like Gaza, even Mungiki, or Jeshi la Imbakazi, Wakali Nyinyi, like that man will be identified by his names and the nicknames and the role he plays in that group. Like he's the chairperson, maybe, or they will say so and so, normally known as so and so, has been maybe gunned down in a police shootout, or in a police operation, in a flying squad operation, and so forth. But when it comes to women, we normally want to place them kind at the periphery and present their association with criminality and terrorism or another form of violence with victimization and vulnerability. You realize that women are presented in various categories. Number one, vulnerability. You realize that, for example, when you look at the attack like that one of DCT2 attack, there was a lady who was involved together with the guy who was a suicide bomber. You realize that in every media outlet, that lady was regarded as the bride, the Al-Shabaab bride. Like after giving the name, what went viral about that lady was Al-Shabaab bride. Like they had to put the word Al-Shabaab bride. So it was more of associating the lady to the man than like to Al-Shabaab in terms of sexuality than in terms of insurgency. So also some ladies sometimes back were found closing the border to Somalia. The media refers to them as Al-Shabaab base, like basically to translate to the girlfriends of Al-Shabaab. So you realize that designating such titles like wife to an Al-Shabaab member, Al-Shabaab Bay, Al-Shabaab bride, all wife to a Gaza leader, and so forth, takes away the aspect of insurgency and the role they play in that group and focuses more on the relationship between that woman violent actor or suspect violent actor with the male members in that group. So we tend like to present a notion that the woman in that group is just simply there because of the husband or the boyfriend, not because they like rationally made this decision to be there, but because of this relationship. They are victims of circumstances. They are victims of love, and they fell in love with the wrong person. They fell in love maybe with a terrorist member, a terrorist or a criminal, a gang member, and so forth. So the focusing on sexuality relationships in the group as opposed to the motivations of insurgents and the plight of women in these groups brings out an aspect where a woman has been placed at the periphery and is seen from the aspect of victimization and is just a victim who just found herself in a state where she cannot reverse because of love, emotions, and so forth. Number two, you realize that we tend to bring in the aspect of widowhood. And look, for example, at a lady like Samantha Lewitt, the lady who was highly associated with the Westgate Mall attack. Instead of identifying her as Samantha Lewitt, maybe an associate or a member in Al-Shabaab or a member in Al-Qaeda, she's normally referred to as in media reports as the White Widow. So the aspect of a widow brings in an aspect of vulnerability, because when you talk about a widow, you present a woman who has lost the husband. And a widow is somebody who is very vulnerable, who need protection, who needs to be helped. Many times in many African societies, widows are the people who even don't have people who fight for them. So when you bring in the aspect of widowhood, run away from the real act that this woman did, then you also bring in the aspect of, if this widow is arrested, there are the children who are going to be left orphans without somebody to take care of them. So that brings in more emotions than rationality that actually is supposed to be employed when we are talking about war against criminality, war against terror, and war against violence. So I realized that the rippling of, you want to bring aspect of widowhood, aspect of a bride to Al-Shabaab, the wife to Al-Shabaab terrorist, a sister to, like, you are running away from the true story, and you are giving us even information which is not actually very necessary, because you are running from the violent act that has been committed, and you are focusing on the context that actually it's like, which is exonerating these women from the terror act, and we start to look at them from an emotional point of view, a pity point of view, and a point of view where we want to look at them as like, they were not, they can't harm anybody. They did it because they have been pushed to the wall and so forth. And then another thing is about some media reports. Actually, I don't know whether it is intentionally or it is unintentionally. Some reports about some women fighters don't get to be given out appropriately the way we give reports of men fighters. And I want us to look, for example, at the 1975 bombing of the Norfolk Hotel. In this bombing, when you read through the analogy of that bombing and the Moroccan assailant who was involved, he was with a woman. But what is outside there in the newspapers is the entire story of these Moloka assailants, and that woman who he was with, who helped in executing the bomb, is only mentioned as a woman who had a German accent, period. But we are told a lot about this, the Moluccan assailant, his name, how he entered in, and so forth. But we are not given the story of the woman with whom he was. So, like, you realize, like, we are looking at the man more, and trying to imagine that actually there is no this woman at all. It's like we want to erase this woman out of the picture. So that's also another thing. Missing accounts of women, criminals, or violent or terrorist actors. So I see MD is saying, watching. Thank you so much, MD. Welcome. Leave your suggestions, leave your feedbacks in the chat box, and any question that you have, I'm here to answer it. Thank you so much. So, and another aspect that I've seen very common with media houses and media reports, when giving us stories about women criminals and violent actors, they focus on the physical look of the woman. I was reading through the entire aspects of Gaza. It's a small neighborhood violent group in Nairobi, and I realized that the women thugs in that group who were killed were associated with physical beauty. So you could find that almost each media house, for example, when reporting about one of the thugs, did not actually focus more on the name of this lady, but they focused on telling us that the police kills Nairobi's prettiest thug. The police kill the queen of Gaza. The police kill the prettiest thug in Gaza. Like they don't want to give us the identity of this woman. They don't want to tell us the role this woman has been playing in this group. They do not want to tell us where this woman comes from. They don't want to tell us perhaps what informs this woman, like how it happened. They want to tell us that she was the prettiest thug. She was the most beautiful gangster. She was the queen of Gaza. You know, queen, ideally a queen is somebody who's very magnificent, somebody who's very beautiful, somebody who has it all. So you realize that the image that is painted of a woman who is into criminality, or a woman terrorist, or a woman violent actor, it is a woman of a lovely mother, a woman who is very beautiful, a woman who is very vulnerable, a woman who needs protection. So when I look at all these presentations, I sit down and I ask myself, how are we supposed then to clean women and include them in the decision-making table as far as counterterrorism measures are concerned, if we don't first want to understand that women can be or are violent actors? And no, we are reporting this despite the fact that these women, all events across the country and in other countries, have shown us that actually women can be like women are participating in violence, in terrorism, in criminality. So we are still propagating the, I call it gender blind, or a gender skewed narrative that it's tilted in a way that we only have a male warrior and a female victim. So you see, such things impact on how even we come up with counter-terror strategies and how we implement these strategies. And another thing is, when you look again at this, the way the media presents their reports about violence and terrorism, I want you to keep watch on this, and you can always leave the feedback in the chat box and tell me whether it's not true, because I've watched in so many documentaries, or in so many reports, and in so many newspapers that are reporting on maybe police have done an operation somewhere. And I want to give a good example of the Usalama Watch that was being carried in Nairobi. If Usalama Watch could be reported from the aspect that it was violation of the entire Somali community's human rights, I could be very, very much happy, because what I saw mainly came out, yes, the media wants to talk about the violation of the rights of the residents in Isri that happened during that Usalama Watch, but in so doing, what they are giving us the images, the front pages are the images of women crying, calling babies, complaining, some saying their husbands have got, they don't know where their husbands are, some saying their sons have been abducted, some saying that their sons have been beaten. Like, what we saw, it was more of like communicating, like women have suffered than the entire people in Isri have suffered. I don't know what I'm communicating. So if we want to talk about a violent or like a reporting in an occasion where individual human rights, all individuals' lives have been distracted, why should we pick only women and punch them in front, on the front part of our newspapers? We are going to interview them more than even the male counterparts. Why? What are we trying to communicate outside there? That it's only women who are suffering in this. So, and by the end of the day, we think that in that way, it is helping the women. No, it doesn't help. What those things does, number one, they halt counter-terror strategies and the counter-violence strategies. Because the moment you paint an image of a vulnerable woman, or the moment you bring an image of a woman having a baby and is crying there, nobody looks at the violent act or what informs the operation that the police officers are carrying out. Everybody is looking at that woman who is crying. People would be saying, those people don't even see that woman has a baby. They cannot even see that that woman is crying. Who even touches a woman? Who even beats a woman? Who even arrests a woman? So you see, when we start asking, who even does this a woman? Who even does this to a woman? The question is, who should do this to men? Or who should be arrested? Who should be questioned when it comes to Teller? Does it mean it's only men? Does it mean it's only the boy child? Who? That's the question. Why do we have a gender-blind reporting and a gender-blind approach when it comes to the presentation of criminals, terror suspects, and violent actors? Why do we take that one category is intrinsically vulnerable, intrinsically peaceful, and intrinsically motherly? Why don't we realize that these humanitarian aspects that we want to attach to a woman can be taken advantage of by the terror groups, and that's how they are able to bring weapons into the country? Because if you are going to search a woman so much and you are a man soldier, and the woman has been presented as a mother person who cannot actually harm anybody, if somebody happens to take that photo and put it online, the soldier will be accused of violation of the right to privacy and even accused of sexual assault to the lady. And keeping in mind that we do not have enough number, like a huge number of female soldiers and so forth. So that means that in some cases, then the women may be left to pass through if we don't have maybe a woman soldier on the ground to do the checking and so forth. So for me, I could say that how the media presents women, violent actors, criminals, and members of terror groups is very detrimental. I'm saying this, it is detrimental to the country and the society at large, number one, in terms of our counterterrorism measures. Because then we will always have that notion of coming up with policies of dealing with a male suspect and not a woman suspect. And we cannot blame like the people coming up with these policies for being gender like insensitive. No. How information is conveyed is how that information is interpreted. So how the media presents it is reports actually puts even women away from the table where counter-terror strategies or major decision-making concerning violence, terrorism, and criminality are being made. So women were put at the periphery, not because we don't have the ability, but because of the weak and the vulnerable image of us that has been painted outside there. Number two, it is detrimental to women themselves. Because if we say that when there is war, women serve a double, and we do not want to end this war successfully, they will continue suffering. Like women will continue then suffering the way you say that when there is war, women serve a double. So the thing is, if you don't want to accept that women can be violent actors or terrorists, and report them as not women, but as violent terrorists, and then this thing about war conflict will never come to an end. And finally, it embarks on how the image of a woman and the perception and the socialization of a woman would continue to be done in this country. And I'm saying this because we have very strong women empowerment initiatives, forums, and organizations. Some are government, some are non-governmental. So you don't want to present a woman as vulnerable and weak and expect that woman to be appointed as the CS Interior to handle issues to do with security. Because if you say that in violence and terrorism, women are weak, they are vulnerable, they are victims, they are weak, you have already painted a picture of women who are not able. Me, I don't want anybody outside there to paint a picture that I'm not able. No, we have been empowered women, and we still have initiatives that are still empowering us. And I want us, the society, to look this from this particular angle. Within our police service, we have strong women who are doing strong work. The fact that we have strong police officers who are women, the fact that we have strong women in the military service is a strong indicator that we can have very, very dangerous women terrorists, women criminals, and women violent actors. And therefore, the same measure with which we handle men violent actors, let it be the same measure with which we should be able to handle and report women violent actors. I say this passionately because this is my area of study. This is what I'm doing every day. And the kind of criticism and the kind of feedback you get from outside there are the people who believe and think that women we are intrinsically vulnerable. While actually, even events across the country have shown us that women are not intrinsically intrinsically peaceful the way we want to put it. And I brought in the aspect of the media because somebody asked, and it came at the time when I had also done something about the same. And because actually the world depends on the media to know what's happening somewhere. Somebody who is in the village and something has happened in Nairobi depends on the media to know what happened in Nairobi. And my grandmother in the village, all my mother, all my old shosho in the village is getting an image of a widow who has been arrested. For her already, she will start castigating that police officer for arresting an innocent widow, because the image of a widow is an image of somebody who is very vulnerable. So my call outside that to the media is, how do we present violent and criminal actors? Let's present them for who they are and the violent action that they have done. Let's not present them with aspects that either conceal part of their image and brings out another emotional part. When it comes to security, when it comes to violence, when it comes to criminality, emotions don't help anybody. Rationality does. Reality does. So for me, it is a conclusion that the media has been very, very much gender biased and gender blind in the presentation of their criminals and violent actors and terrorists in a way that a woman is presented more in terms of their statuses, that is, if maybe pregnancy, because I also saw another place, it was a newspaper where a woman had been arrested for because she was suspected to be an aide of Al-Shabaab. And that's the title read, "My child is not kicking," says a woman arrested over Al-Shabaab claims. So the first thing that we got is, "My child is not kicking." Imagine me, woman, reading a headline that "My child is not kicking," and I'm a woman, and I give birth to life, and I read something that the child is not kicking. Do you think I will read that topic to an end? The first thing is, I will not even want to know what the woman's association with Al-Shabaab has to do with anything. I'll want to know, why is the child not kicking? Why have they not done something to make sure that this woman has been taken care of? What, like, the focus will not be on the action that this lady has done, but the focus will always be on this emotional part that you have brought up. So for me, I call upon the media houses that when we are reporting about criminals, when we are reporting about terrorists, when we are reporting about violent actors, let's report about these violent actors for who they are. A violent actor is a violent actor, regardless of their gender, regardless of whether they are women or they are men. Tell us, so and so has been arrested for this and this. So and so has been arrested for this and this. Don't start telling us, so and so, a wife to this has been arrested. We don't want to know the wife, the other parts. The other parts, leave the police to do their investigation on that, because they know how that one maybe will help them if there's need be. But don't bring out information to catch the public's attention, but curtail counterterrorism and counter-violence strategies in the country. Remember, for us to end these conflicts, for us to end violence, for us to end terrorism, we all have to play our role so well. So don't run for likes and viewers and the larger audience and make catchy stories that by the end of the day contribute towards jeopardizing the wars against terrorism and violence. So that's all I have for today. And I thank you so much for those ones who have been with us. That there's Wambui D. Henley. He says, yeah, true. Thank you so much, Wambui. We really appreciate you so much. Keep your chats and your feedback in the chat box. Reach out to me, write me a message. I'm always ready to answer to that. And for anybody outside there, I could say that it's high time that we started to have a society that is managed, all sustained by rationality. We put away emotions. We come together as a nation, we come together as people and work towards the same goal, ensuring our national peace, ensuring our national security. I believe that with sustainable security, anything else will just actually fall in place. So thank you so much. Let's meet next time for another hot topic. So as from May, we will have a series, and this series will be discussing different violent groups that have been listed as illegal in our country. We need to understand them. We need to know them. Then we need to understand them for us to avoid them, to advise our children not to engage themselves with these groups. We need to create awareness. We need to tell our children what it means to be in a violent group and why they should not do what they should not join. They are outside now, they are finished school. We don't want to lose our children. I saw a mother at Tuko say that she doesn't want to bury her son. So we need to bring out this information out. We need to socialize our kids well. We need to share information. So thank you so much. See you next time when we began the gang series. Thank you.